A Course in Miracles, Questions and Answers. How will the world end? Based on A Course in Miracles teachings. Meditation context. Keeping your attention on or in your body will keep you in the present moment. All guilt, regret, resentment, and anger is based on the past. All worry, anxiety, and fear is centered on some point in the future. In the present moment, none of that fear-based negativity exists. The Course in Miracles text is 1,754 pages long, and the main premise is: nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Each of my meditation videos will all have from 7 to 10 A Course in Miracles quotations, and after each quotation, I will have a short meditation. Here is the first Course in Miracles quotation. A Course in Miracles Insights and Quotations Meditation. Quotation. Do you like what you have made? A world of murder and attack through which you thread your timid way through constant dangers, alone and frightened, hoping at most that death will wait a little longer before it overtakes you and you disappear? You made this up. It is a picture of what you think you are, of how you see yourself. A Course in Miracles. We're going to use the 4-7-8 method. The 4-7-8 breathing technique involves breathing in for 4 seconds, holding the breath for 7 seconds, and then exhaling for 8 seconds. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation. The world was meant to be a place where God could enter not, and where his Son could be apart from him. Here was perception born, but eyes deceive and ears hear falsely. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation. This is perhaps the strangest perception of all, if you consider what it really involves. The ego, which is not real, attempts to persuade the mind, which is real, that the mind is the ego's learning device, and further, that the body is more real than the mind is. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation. From the ego came sin and guilt and death in opposition to life and innocence and to the will of God himself. Where can such opposition lie but in the sick minds of the insane, dedicated to madness and set against the peace of heaven? One thing is sure: God, who created neither sin nor death wills not that you be bound by them. A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. Quotation. This is the journey's end. We have referred to it as the real world, and yet there is a contradiction here in that the words imply a limited reality, a partial truth, a segment of the universe made true. Salvation is a borderland where place and time and choice have meaning still, and yet it can be seen that they are temporary, out of place, and every choice has already been made. A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. Quotation. If you made the ego, how can the ego have made you? The authority problem is still the only source of conflict because the ego was made out of the wish of God's Son to father him. The ego, then, is nothing more than a delusional system in which you made your own father. Make no mistake about this. It sounds insane when it is stated with perfect honesty, but the ego never looks on what it does with perfect honesty. A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. Quotation. You can never choose except between God and the ego. Thought systems are but true or false, and all their attributes come simply from what they are. Only the thoughts of God are true. A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. Quotation. What if you recognize this world is a hallucination? What if you really understood you made it up? What if you realized that those who seem to walk about in it, to sin and die, attack and murder and destroy themselves, are wholly unreal? A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. Quotation. When not one thought of sin remains, the world is over. It will not be destroyed nor attacked nor even touched. It will merely cease to seem to be. A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. The question posed at the beginning of this meditation was, how will the world end? The quotations that best answer this question will be shown here now. The first text that I highlighted in green, shown below, says, What if you recognized this world is a hallucination? What if you really understood you made it up? That appears to imply, first of all, the world that we see is not the real world. It is in some way a hallucination. Okay, and that we made it up through our thoughts, through our beliefs, through whatever it is. It's not the real world. We made it up. Again, the question posed at the beginning of this meditation was, how will the world end? And the second quotation that best answers this question is shown here. The text highlighted in green says, "When not one thought of sin remains, the world is over. It will not be destroyed, nor attacked, nor even touched. It will merely cease to seem to be." Okay, now that appears to be telling you that our thought of sin is what keeps the world appearing the way it is to us. So when that thought of sin no longer remains, the world as we know it, as we perceive it, as we see it, will be over, and it won't be destroyed. It will just cease to seem to be. It will be over as we know it, as we see it, as we perceive it. Space Eternity Meditation. We're going to take an imaginary trip with your consciousness, and during this imaginary trip, we'll leave your body behind. To begin, see yourself standing in a large grass field. You've been given the ability to travel into space and to go anywhere you like. You don't have to worry about oxygen, collisions, or anything else, because only your consciousness will be traveling into space. You now have the intention and decide to go straight up into the sky. You are now flying up into the clouds. You then decide to pause and take a look around. You look down and see cities, streets, towns, and hills. Now you have the intention and decide to continue flying straight up. You are now in outer space, and it's mostly darkness with lights from stars and distant planets. You then slow down, pause to a standstill, and take a look around. At this point, you decide to go straight ahead in a horizontal direction. Meteors, planets, and other phenomena are racing by you. You then slow down, pause to a standstill, and take a look around. You again decide to continue in the same direction. You continue, and you have now traveled a significant distance while moving extremely fast. You then think to yourself, when will I reach the end of this universe or of this solar system? How will I know when I've gone as far as I can possibly go? You then realize that either there is an upcoming wall of some sort, or space just continues on. And you think to yourself, if there is some sort of a wall ahead of me, what about straight above me? Is there some sort of a wall there too? And what about straight below me and behind me? Is this universe or solar system contained in some sort of a box? Is outer space confined by a box with walls? And if so, what is behind the walls of this box? You think to yourself, if outer space is confined by a box and I go through one of the walls of the box into outer space again, then when does that space end? Is there another box enclosing the box that I just exited from? You then realize that the only thing that makes sense is that there are no walls or boxes in outer space, that space just keeps on going endlessly for an infinite distance. You realize that infinity is the only thing that makes sense when it comes to outer space.